Last Monday, the 21st of January, I and 6 other priests, 3 of us from the Archdiocese of Portland and the remaining 4 from the Archdiocese of Seattle, began a program that is grounded on 3 pillars: asceticism, prayer, and fraternity. The name of the program is Exodus 90. And beginning on the 21st of January and concluding on Easter Sunday, we have all pledged to do the following: to read a daily reflection that comes to us by way of email, to pray a holy hour, to pray for one another, to pray for everyone who is involved in this Exodus 90 program, to make a nightly examination of conscience, to take cold, short showers, to practice a regular, intense regime of exercise, to get a full night's sleep, to abstain from alcohol, abstain from desserts and sweets, which means no sugar in your coffee, abstain from eating between meals, abstain from soda or sweet drinks, abstain from television, movies, or televised sports. We're all aware that the Super Bowl is coming up. Abstain from video games, abstain from non-essential material purchases, listen to music that lifts the soul to God, use the computer only for work, school, or essential tasks, and use mobile devices only for essential communication. Non-essential texting and internet use is prohibited. Well, the reason I bring that up is because each day we receive a daily meditation. And as I was preparing the readings for this homily, I have to admit I was perplexed. I was perplexed by the first reading from the book of the prophet Nehemiah, a reading from Scripture, a book from Scripture that we don't encounter very often throughout the liturgical year. In fact, once or maybe at the most twice. The reading is perplexing because here the people are gathered around Ezra, the priest scribe, who is reading the law of God, God's instruction to his people, and their reaction is to weep. In yesterday's daily reflection, there was a story. And the story has to do with St. Teresa of Avila, which puts everything in the first reading into context and gives such great meaning to the words of Jesus in the gospel today. St. Teresa of Avila often used a metaphor to speak of how God always searches us out, and how God always desires from us some response. She used the metaphor of a sunflower. When the sun rises in the morning, she wrote, and the rays of the sun flood the world, a sunflower will turn its head toward the sun. But it can only do this once it has been found by the sun. Likewise, whenever a soul moves toward God, it is because God made the initiative first. This, she writes, is the essence of the spiritual life. In the first reading this morning from the book of the prophet Nehemiah, the context is important. The year is about 538 BC, and the people have just returned to their homeland after almost 50 years of exile in a foreign land, the land of Babylon. In 586 or 587 BC, Babylon came in, destroyed the temple, decimated the people, and ripped those who survived from their land. And the people from Israel spent the next 50 years in captivity, away from their homeland, knowing that their temple had been destroyed. The temple, the land, which reminded them, physical reminders of God's enduring covenant. In short, their very identity as God's people comes under severe doubt. They felt lost. They were confused. They were in pain. And so when Ezra, the priest scribe, gathers them together, the men, the women, and the children old enough to understand, to hear God's instruction again, the people realized the truth that St. Teresa of Avila reminded us in Exodus 90 about yesterday, that God always seeks us out. God always finds us. God always is in search for us, so that we might bathe in the rays of his light, in the rays of his love, in the rays of his mercy, in the rays of communion with him. What was true for the people returning from their captivity in Babylon, gathered around Ezra, the priest scribe, was the same and true for St. Teresa of Avila. And it's just as true for us today. When we feel lost, when we feel alone, when we feel discouraged, when we feel forgotten, when we feel as though we are incapable of being forgiven, God searches for us. In the gospel today, Jesus gives us the words to help us believe, to be convicted, and to trust. For just as the words from the book of the prophet Nehemiah were proclaimed this morning, and God once again went in search for his people, and they basked in his presence, we can confidently say with Jesus, today, this scripture passage is fulfilled in our hearing.